Alright, I'll be transparent here. I'm just kind of throwing on a camera just to give my thoughts. You know, the type of content I kind of make is I like to make tier lists and rankings and that kind of stuff, but I cannot go a whole day without saying something about the lockout that's happening in the MLB right now. Honestly, I just feel so deeply saddened and my heart aches for all the small and big MLB creators out there. I think of Draftneck Mark, Foolish Baseball, Jolly Olive, that's another big one. Like, all those guys are suffering because MLB is having a lockout. That's their living. And all the smaller creators out there that are doing YouTube for MLB also, they're also affected by this almost kind of like a pandemic almost. It's really, really terrible. For those of you who are unaware, the MLB Players Association and the owners in the MLB have not come into an agreement to extend the collective bargaining agreement, or CBA. A lot of people will say it. The CBA expired at 12:01 a.m. this morning. It is the second. It's 7:45 right now p.m. But I really just I don't even know what to say. I'm lost for words. Robert Manfred put out this letter, if you even want to call it that, to the MLB fans. This is a joke, by the way, because, I mean, I get it. He's trying to gain sympathy from the fans, but it's like, he says, I'll say, he does make some okay points in this letter. It's just the fact that he wants the MLB fans to side with the owners and Robert Manfred, who Robert Manfred, by the way, is the person who represents the owners when they're making agreements with the Players Association. Max Scherzer is one of the higher guys in the MLB Players Association who would represent them, for example. But really, I'm just going to take this video, I'm going to read over this letter with you. I did read it kind of briefly earlier today, kind of skimmed through it, but we're going to go in depth. We're going to read this, break it down a little bit, and give my opinions on it. So he starts off this with, "To our fans, I first want to thank you for your continued support of the great game of baseball. This past season, we were reminded of how the national pastime can bring us together and restore our hope despite the difficult challenges of a global pandemic. As we began to emerge from one of the darkest periods in our history, our ballparks were filled with fans, the games were filled with excitement, and millions of families felt the joy of watching baseball together." Now this, I will say, I agree with. I mean, baseball was really nice this year. You had iconic seasons from so many players, and so many new faces were coming in. Shohei Ohtani, to give one example. Fernando Tatis went off this year, and some of the big storylines this year were huge too. Juan Soto, great player on a bad team. You gotta like it. I mean, platooning was becoming a huge part of this season. Like people like Chris Taylor, people like Austin Meadows, they're starting to become more and more popular. And now you have revolutionized the two-way player with Shohei Ohtani. So a lot of good things came from 2021. And I guess the fans coming back was another big thing compared to 2020. That is why I'm so disappointed about the situation in which our game finds itself today. Despite the league's best efforts to make a deal with the Players Association, we were unable to extend our 26-year-long history of labor, peace, and come to an agreement with the MLBPA before the current CBA expired. Therefore, we have been forced to commence a lockout of Major League players effective at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Time on December 2nd. I want to explain to you how we got here and why we have to take this action today. Simply put, we believe that an off-season lockout is the best mechanism to protect the 2022 season. We hope that the lockout will jumpstart the negotiations and get us to an agreement that will allow the season to start on time. This defensive lockout was necessary because the Players Association's vision for the MLB would threaten the ability of most teams to be competitive. It's simply not a viable option. From the beginning, the MLBPA has been unwilling to move from their starting position, compromise, or collaborate on situations. So something he's going to talk about in this next paragraph here is he's talking about what the MLB Players Association is just not viable. I completely disagree. What they're asking for is really not that much. What they're wanting is they're wanting the low guys to start making a little bit more money, which I think is completely reasonable, by the way. I mean, you've got guys making like $50,000 at the lowest level, which, yeah. And because there's no salary cap in baseball and the owners pay every single dollar of money to all the players, it does make a little bit of sense for there to be no minimum salary like you'd see in the NFL. The NFL salary cap right now, I believe, is $287.5 million right now, and the minimum salary is $175,000 a year. Baseball is not like that. You can pay a guy as much as or as little as you want to, really. And tenure, there is no limit on either. I think he's going to say all this coming up in this next paragraph. When we began negotiations over a new agreement, the Players Association already had a contract that they wouldn't trade for any other in sports. Baseball players have no salary cap, as I just said, and are not subject to a maximum length or dollar amount of contracts, also, like I just said. In fact, only MLB has guaranteed contracts that run 10 or more years and exceeds of $300 million. We have not proposed anything that would change these fundamentals. While we have heard repeatedly that free agency is broken, in the month of November, $1.7 billion was committed to free agents, smashing the prior record by nearly 4 times. By the end of the offseason, clubs will have committed more money to players than in any offseason in MLB history. That 100% does not surprise me because of how many huge contracts and the average annual value is going up. Now, this is why I think that this might come to a little bit of a resolution a little bit more quickly. I might say this a little bit at the end, but Max Scherzer being one of the higher guys in the MLBPA, going out and getting a contract where you get $43.3 million a year, getting the highest average annual value, is huge for making an agreement, coming to an agreement coming up in the future. We worked hard to find compromise while making the system even better for players by addressing concerns raised by the Players Association. We offered to establish a minimum payroll for all clubs to meet for the first time in MLB history, to allow the majority of players to reach free agency earlier through an age-based system that would eliminate any claims of service time, manipulation, and to increase compensation for all young players, including increases in the minimum salary. When negotiations lacked momentum, we tried to create some by offering to accept the universal designated hitter, to create a new draft system using a lottery similar to other leagues, and to increase the competitive balance tax threshold that affects only a small number of teams. So the last thing he talks about there is the luxury tax. They want to increase it, and really the only 2 teams affected by this right now are the New York Yankees and the LA Dodgers, who I believe are just about to be going up against the luxury tax with the Chris Taylor signing. Going back on this, he says that he's saying that he wants to increase the minimum payroll for those lower players, but he's saying he wants to make free agency an age-based system. Like, what kind of sense does that even make here, guys? That is maybe the stupidest thing I've literally ever heard in my whole entire life. I don't get why you would ever do that. I don't get why you'd propose that to the MLB players. That's really stupid. And make sure that guys really are not going to be getting, 1, a lot of money, and 2, compared based on how good they are. It means you're literally going to be making this amount of money when you're this age. What kind of sense does that even make? We have had challenges before with respect to making labor agreements and have overcome those challenges every single time during my tenure. Regrettably, it appears the Players Association came to a bargaining table with a strategy of confrontation over compromise. What else do you expect them to do? Let me finish this paragraph. They never wavered from collectively the most extreme set of proposals in their history, including significant cuts to the revenue sharing system, a weakening of the competitive balance tax, and shortening the period of time that players play for their teams. All of these changes would make our game less competitive, not more. 1, I completely agree with what he was saying there at the last time, because if you make everyone's tenure shorter, then the thing is that players can't have people locked up for so long, so the teams with more money are going to end up paying a lot of those players for short periods of time, and then you have a super team for 4 years. And that's going to make the competition very bad in MLB. I completely agree with that, but it's really not the best thing that he's saying here, because he says it's kind of shortening the 10 years is... I get it, what he's saying, but completely, they're saying they want to give cuts to the revenue sharing system. Completely, 100% do it. They're saying that they want to really weaken the luxury tax, which 100% makes so much sense, because I get the luxury tax is keeping teams from spending $1 billion on players every single year, but still, that would mean that the teams with more money are going to have the better thing. Weakening the luxury tax makes it so that teams who have a lot of money that are afraid to spend it because of the luxury tax would be able to start doing that. I think of teams like the Marlins. You see they're going out and getting guys this year. They have money. Kim Ng and Derek Jeter have plenty of money to start going out and getting free agents. And because of the luxury tax, they are scared to. That is just one example. That's why you see them trade away guys like Christian Yelich, like Giancarlo Stanton, like JT Realmuto. That's why they're trading these guys away. I don't even know. I don't know. To be clear, this hard but important step does not necessarily mean games will be canceled. In fact, we are taking this step now because it accelerates the urgency for an agreement with as much runaway as possible to avoid doing damage to the 2022 season. Delaying this process further would only put spring training, opening day, and the rest of the season further at risk. We cannot allow an expired agreement to again cause an in-season strike and to miss World Series, like we experienced in 1994. We all owe you, our fans, better than that. So he's really trying to gain sympathy from the fans. Oh, we owe you better than that. Well, I completely agree. They completely owe us way more than that with what they've been doing lately and how they handled the COVID season. And he says it doesn't necessarily mean games will be canceled. I don't see this running on that long, 100%. I think that MLB owners are going to come to the realization that it's like, oh man, we really have to come to these agreements or else we are going to lose our complete revenue. And that's why I think owners are being way too greedy about this. The players are the only way that they are making any money right now, pretty much. The bulk of their money is coming from these players playing on a baseball field. And they're not wanting to come to an agreement that helps those players play on a baseball field, which just doesn't make any sense because the players have all the leverage. They can just say, no, we don't want to play anymore, and the MLB is done. We can go play in Japan or something like that, which that would be hilarious, first of all. But still, today is a difficult day for baseball, but as I have said all year, there is a path to a fair agreement, and we will find it. I do not doubt the league and players share a fundamental appreciation for this game and a commitment to its fans. I remain optimistic that both sides will seize the opportunity to work together to grow, protect, and strengthen the game we love. MLB is ready to work around the clock to meet that goal. I urge the Players Association to join us at the table. That is 100% a shot fired at the MLBPA. I urge the Players Association to join us at the table. That is literally almost like a threat. He ends this whole entire speech with almost like a threat to the Players Association. Today's a difficult day for baseball, really trying to gain the sympathy of the fans. And then he's going to call out the MLBPA like this. And I mean, that's pretty much like his job right now is to call them out. But still, it does not make any sense. What are you doing, baseball and Rob Manfred? I don't even know. I could probably rant for like hours upon hours today, but I am going to cut this video off right here. If you guys want to leave your thoughts down in the comments or on the subreddit and the Discord, I will open up a channel for Lockout discussion, and all those links are always in the description. Follow me on Twitter, all the good stuff. I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good day. Have a blessed one. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.